Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered what life would feel like if nothing and nobody could ever hurt you again? Not because the world changed, but because you did? In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we'll explore how true emotional invincibility is born from inner transformation, not outer protection. This isn't about building walls. It's about awakening a deeper consciousness that no longer takes things personally. As you listen, ask yourself, what would your life look like if you no longer reacted from pain, but responded from presence? If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may inspire someone else to begin their healing. 1. The illusion of strength and the hidden pain. Many people dream of becoming emotionally untouchable, unshaken by rejection, immune to betrayal, and indifferent to criticism. On the surface, this sounds like strength, but behind that desire often lies a hidden truth: the longing to escape the pain that once broke us. The image of being unbreakable becomes a mask we wear to feel safe, a performance we maintain to protect the wounded parts of ourselves that never fully healed. Yet spiritual wisdom reminds us that when we try to numb pain, we also numb joy. When we suppress what hurts, we suppress what is real. Trying to uphold the illusion of strength, pretending everything is fine while you're silently falling apart, only deepens the suffering. It turns the soul into a battlefield where the heart quietly bleeds while the face smiles. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He understood that much of what we call strength is really just fear in disguise. The fear of being seen as weak, the fear of being rejected again, the fear of being vulnerable in a world that often punishes tenderness. But the cost of this illusion is steep. It disconnects us from our inner truth, from our ability to feel deeply and live fully. As long as we try to avoid pain, we remain controlled by it. It lingers beneath the surface, influencing our choices, our relationships, our self-worth. We may think we're protecting ourselves, but in reality, we're keeping ourselves trapped in patterns of emotional numbness and spiritual stagnation. Pain that is denied doesn't disappear. It becomes part of the lens through which we see the world. The more we resist it, the more it persists. This is where the real shift begins, not by pushing pain away, but by facing it with open eyes and an open heart. True strength, then, isn't the absence of pain. It's the ability to stay present with yourself while you're hurting. It's knowing who you are in the middle of the storm. It's choosing to stay connected to your essence even when everything around you is trying to pull you back into old fears and patterns. This kind of strength doesn't come from performance. It comes from presence. It's quiet. It's grounded. It doesn't shout, but it never breaks. The deepest spiritual wisdom teaches that nothing and nobody will ever truly hurt you again. Not because the world will become kinder, but because you will stop abandoning yourself to please it. You will no longer betray your soul for the sake of appearances. You will no longer sacrifice your truth to earn acceptance. When you stop resisting pain, you become free. When you embrace your humanity with compassion, you become whole. Pain loses its power when you stop running from it, and in that moment, you remember who you've always been. Not untouchable, but unshakable. If you're ready to release the illusion of invincibility and embrace your true strength, the raw, honest, and human comment below. I allow myself to feel and heal. 2. Pain comes from within, not from others. What hurts the most is rarely what others do to you. It's what their actions stir up inside. A harsh comment, a sudden rejection, a betrayal they strike, not because they are inherently powerful, but because they awaken something unresolved within you. Carl Jung called this the meeting point between the outer world and the unconscious, the place where life's events become mirrors, reflecting back the wounds you haven't yet healed. The pain doesn't originate in the event. It emerges from the story, the memory, the emotional scar that lives quietly beneath the surface. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. Pain is a signal, not a sentence. When someone's words shatter your sense of peace, it's not their voice that has power. It's your own inner vulnerability responding. Maybe you were dismissed in a meeting and suddenly felt invisible. That moment taps into a long-buried belief that your presence doesn't matter. Or perhaps someone you love pulls away, and the ache isn't just about them. It's a childhood fear of being abandoned all over again. In this way, the world doesn't injure you, it reveals you. Carl Jung taught that true freedom begins when we recognize this inner dynamic. It's not about blaming yourself, it's about reclaiming your authorship. Others lose their power the moment you realize that the trigger is not the cause, but the invitation. Every emotional reaction is a doorway. Every sting is a map leading back to a place that longs to be seen and healed. That's not a weakness. That's the birthplace of self-mastery. In modern life, these triggers are constant. A friend's success on social media makes you question your worth. A partner's silence leaves you spiraling in doubt. A stranger's criticism ruins your whole day. But the truth is, none of these moments have authority over you unless you grant it. The moment you understand that the source of pain is internal, you are no longer a victim. You are a seeker of truth. The path of healing, then, is not to harden yourself or escape emotion, but to meet each wave of feeling with compassion and curiosity. You don't need to become untouchable. You need to become aware. When you bring your attention to the wound instead of the weapon, you start to shift. You stop defending and start listening. You stop hiding and begin integrating. And in that space, nobody, not even the harshest critic or the deepest betrayal, can truly harm you. Carl Jung's insight is timeless. What happens inside you determines everything. When you stop being reactive and start being reflective, you reclaim the power you unknowingly gave away. You step into a life where every experience becomes a teacher, where pain no longer controls you, but guides you, where the world may still be chaotic, but your inner life is rooted in peace and presence. This is not about building walls, it's about becoming whole. And when you are whole, nothing and nobody can break you again. Are you ready to reclaim your power from within? If this message speaks to your heart, comment below, "I will heal within," to show your commitment to inner transformation. 3. The battle is within, the role of the unconscious. As long as your unconscious remains hidden, it quietly governs your life, shaping your choices, emotions, and reactions in ways you can't fully see. And yet, you call it fate. You wonder why pain keeps coming back, why similar wounds resurface, why the same emotional storms return no matter how much you change your surroundings. But the answer is not outside of you. It lives deep within. Pain, anger, and sadness are not random burdens. They are messenger signals from repressed parts of your psyche calling out to be seen, heard, and finally understood. When you ignore them, they don't disappear. They grow roots and silently dictate the direction of your life, showing up as anxiety, chaos, or cycles you can't seem to escape. Suppressing your truth only feeds the shadows. Every time you silence your grief, swallow your rage, or pretend you're fine when you're not, you plant seeds of inner fragmentation. Those seeds grow into patterns that repeat over and over until you stop and face them. It's not a weakness to feel deeply. What weakens you is avoidance. Because the moment you judge your pain or deny your sadness, you reinforce the lie that parts of you are unworthy of love. That's when the real suffering begins, not because of what others do to you, but because of how much of yourself you feel forced to hide. Healing starts when you stop fighting your own emotions. Spiritual awakening isn't about becoming endlessly calm or universally forgiving. It's about becoming fully conscious. That means turning toward what hurts, what's buried, what was too overwhelming to feel before. Integration is the true medicine. You don't heal by pushing darkness away. You heal by allowing it to come into the light, by gently sitting with your wounds and letting them speak. When you welcome these neglected parts of yourself, something powerful happens. The pain loses its grip, and you reclaim the pieces of your soul that were once forgotten. You realize that no one can hurt you unless there's already a wound inside waiting to be triggered. That's the great liberation. The world may still act as it always has, but you no longer respond with the same inner chaos. Why? Because you are no longer a prisoner of your unconscious. You've met your pain with compassion, your fear with presence, your sorrow with understanding. And when you do this, the war inside ends. You become whole, not by erasing your darkness, but by making it conscious, just as Carl Jung taught. This is the heart of spiritual awakening, not escaping life, but embracing every part of your inner world with truth, love, and unwavering awareness. Have you ever listened to the voice of your unconscious? If so, share your experience in the comments to help others feel less alone. If not, comment, "I'm ready to face it." And let's begin this powerful journey of healing and integration together. 4. Becoming untouchable comes from acceptance, not defense. Real emotional invulnerability is not about building walls or pretending you're unaffected. It's about developing such deep inner clarity that you no longer need to defend yourself. The phrase, "I don't care," has become a mask that many wear, but behind it, there's often a heart that's quietly bleeding. What most people call strength is often just suppression. But true power doesn't come from hiding your pain. It comes from accepting it, from looking it in the eye without flinching, and choosing to integrate it instead of running away. When you suppress your wounds, they don't disappear. They go underground. They show up in defensiveness, in emotional numbness, in the inability to truly connect. That's why so many people appear strong, but are secretly exhausted. They're fighting battles with themselves just to appear okay. But spiritual wisdom teaches that real transformation doesn't begin with pretending you're above the pain. It begins when you stop judging yourself for having it. Your pain, your fear, your shame, these aren't weaknesses. They are portals. Portals to your most authentic self. To integrate your shadow, means to sit with what you usually avoid. It means not pushing away your rage or your grief, but asking, "What do you need to tell me?" The more you do this, the more you begin to realize that emotions are just energy-seeking acknowledgement. And once acknowledged, they lose their power to control you. You stop reacting impulsively. You start responding with clarity. You stop being ruled by past wounds. Instead, you observe them, honor them, and gently disarm them. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop collapsing every time someone triggers you. You become rooted in yourself. Your peace is no longer negotiable. When people insult you, you no longer take it personally. When they abandon you, you no longer lose yourself. You begin to understand that other people's actions are not about your worth. They are reflections of their own wounds. And so you stop internalizing their chaos. You become untouchable, not because you're closed off, but because you're open to your truth, open to your feelings, and open to healing. This is not the cold, sharp strength the world glorifies. It's a quiet, grounded strength. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that radiates from within. When you embody this energy, even your silence becomes powerful. Even your presence becomes protection. You realize that the real battlefield was never outside. It was always within. And once you stop fighting yourself, the outside world loses its grip on your soul. You no longer need to control everything. You no longer need to be liked. You no longer need to win every battle. Because you've already won the one that mattered most. The battle to come home to yourself. That's when nothing and nobody can truly hurt you, not because you've become hard, but because you've become whole. If this message resonates with your heart, take a moment to declare it. I become untouchable through acceptance, not defense. I embrace my truth and trust the process. Let this be your affirmation today. And if you feel it deeply, comment below and share your light with others on this path. 5. Individuation. Becoming whole, not perfect. Carl Jung taught that individuation is not about striving for perfection, but about becoming whole, integrating every part of your being, especially the ones you've been taught to hide. Most of us think healing means fixing what's broken, improving what's lacking, or becoming someone better. But the truth is, you are not here to become better. You are here to become real. To remember the parts of yourself you disowned. To embrace the full spectrum of your existence, joy and grief, confidence and doubt, beauty and pain, and allow them to coexist without shame. The more you run from pain, the more power it has over you. The moment you try to bury it, suppress it, or mask it with positivity, it begins to rule your life from behind the scenes. People often confuse emotional numbness with strength, but Jung made it clear. Repression only deepens suffering. What we refuse to face will continue to control us. And it's not the pain itself that makes us fragile. It's the resistance to feeling it. There's a woman I once knew who wore her achievements like armor. She was successful, admired, and always in control. But beneath it all, she was terrified of being vulnerable. Every failure felt like a collapse. Every criticism cut deeper than it should have. Her strength was performative. She didn't need more achievements. She needed to grieve. She needed to sit with her loneliness without trying to escape it. When she finally did, she stopped trying to be perfect. She started becoming whole. Her transformation didn't come from learning more. It came from unlearning the belief that she had to earn her worth. Carl Jung believed that the shadow, the part of ourselves we hide, is not our enemy. It is our teacher. And until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. That's why the path to inner freedom is not about becoming untouchable or immune to life's pain. It's about becoming intimate with it. The pain does not disappear, but your relationship with it changes. You stop reacting, and you start observing. You stop identifying with your wounds and start recognizing them as part of your human story, not the whole of it. You will find real strength the day you stop trying to appear strong and start being honest. The day you hold your sadness without rushing to fix it. The day you look into the mirror, see every contradiction, and say, I still belong. You don't need to fight your darkness to be free. You need to include it. That's what wholeness is. And when you finally become whole, when you accept the light and the shadow, the ego and the soul, nothing and nobody can hurt you in the same way again. Because your safety no longer depends on the outside world. It comes from the truth within you. Stay connected with our spiritual wisdom community by subscribing to the channel. Here, we explore the journey of becoming whole, not perfect, through self-awareness, healing, and truth. Remember, your contradictions aren't flaws. They're keys to your freedom. You are not broken. You are becoming. Let's walk this path together. 6. Suffering is the beginning of transformation. Suffering is not the enemy. It's a sacred signal, a whisper from the soul that something within you needs to be seen, felt, and healed. Depression is not a flaw in your character. Anxiety is not a defect in your design. And apathy is not laziness. These are the cries of forgotten emotions, the echoes of pain you've pushed aside for far too long. Carl Jung once said that pain is a messenger. So instead of silencing it, avoiding it, or masking it with distractions, you are invited to listen. Because the moment you begin to listen, you begin to awaken. Spiritual awakening doesn't begin with clarity. It often starts with confusion. When you can no longer fake your way through life, when your old masks no longer fit, and when joy seems like a distant memory, this is not the end. It's the threshold. You're not breaking down. You're breaking open. The darkness you feel isn't punishment. It's preparation. The emptiness is not failure. It's a sacred space being cleared for the truth. And the truth is this: you don't need fixing. You need to be met with compassion, especially in your most fragile places. When you stop resisting your pain, something shifts. The energy you once spent running, hiding, or numbing is now available for healing, for integration, for transformation. Jung reminds us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That means the stories you keep reliving, the same heartbreak, the same self-doubt, the same emotional triggers, are not curses. They're invitations. They're the soul's way of guiding you back to yourself over and over again until you finally choose to come home. This process isn't comfortable, but it is sacred. You will grieve things you thought you got over. You will feel emotions you never had words for. You will face the version of you that you abandoned just to survive. But in doing so, you will reclaim your wholeness. You'll see that your wounds didn't make you weak. They made you wise. You'll realize that your sensitivity is not a burden. It's a bridge to the divine. The world may teach you to be untouchable, to stay strong, to smile through the storm. But true strength is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of courage. The courage to sit with yourself. The courage to stop pretending. The courage to feel everything fully, honestly, and without shame. Because once you allow yourself to feel, you stop being a victim of your pain and become a vessel of your power. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. It's not about escaping suffering, but learning from it. It's not about bypassing your darkness, but walking through it with light. You don't transcend pain by ignoring it. You transcend it by understanding it, by honoring it, and by allowing it to reveal the parts of you that are still alive, still longing, still holy. Spiritual awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of protection. It's about returning to the self that trusts its own voice, feels its own truth, and knows its own worth, not because it was taught, but because it was remembered through the fire. 7. True strength is born in the ruins of the ego. True strength is born in the ruins of the ego, where everything you once relied on, your titles, your image, your old stories, no longer hold. Growth does not begin with gaining something new. It begins with losing what is false. You start to outgrow the roles you once clung to, the beliefs you inherited to survive, and the masks you wore to be loved. The more deeply you evolve, the more you realize that these masks kept you safe, but they also kept you small. Letting go is painful, but it is also necessary. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, not becoming perfect, but becoming whole. When life tears down what you've built, you come face to face with yourself. Not the version of you who performs, pleases, or pretends, but the one who's been quietly waiting underneath all the noise. That collapse, the heartbreak, the loss, the moment when everything stops making sense is not a mistake. It's a sacred invitation. What feels like the end is often the soul's way of calling you back to truth. The ego fears this unraveling because it thrives on identity and control. But the soul sees freedom in the fall. Beneath every breakdown is the opportunity to break through. Pain, though uncomfortable, is the most honest mirror you'll ever look into. It doesn't lie. It exposes the illusions you've mistaken for truth. It shows you what's wounded, what's been abandoned inside you, and what is finally ready to be seen. Instead of pushing it away or numbing it down, you begin to sit with it, breathe into it, and listen. You learn that suffering is not a punishment from life, but a doorway to awareness. This is spiritual wisdom. Pain cleanses the spirit of deception and softens the walls built by fear. Every wound becomes a message. Every scar, a sign that something has been transformed. And this is the sacred crossing from the ego's frantic need to fix and control to the soul's quiet power of presence. When you stop trying to prove yourself and start feeling yourself, everything shifts. You are no longer desperate to be untouched by life. Instead, you become open, grounded, deeply connected. Your power is no longer reactive, it's receptive. You don't resist the moment, you become the moment. That is what makes you untouchable, not because you feel no pain, but because you are no longer owned by it. This is the essence of spiritual awakening. The ego breaks so the soul can breathe. Nothing outside you can truly harm you once you return to who you really are. Not because you are armored, but because you are aligned. When you stop clinging to who you were, you finally make room for who you are meant to be. And in that space, in that silence, you find a strength the ego could never touch. 8. Few will walk this path, but it's the only real freedom. Most people will never choose this path, not because it is hidden, but because it demands depth over comfort, truth over convenience. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole by facing the parts of yourself you've been taught to ignore, reject, or fear. It is not a journey of becoming better. It is the courageous unraveling of who you thought you had to be, so that your true self can emerge not as a performance, but as your natural state. This path strips away illusions. You no longer seek approval or wear emotional masks for protection. The idea that emotional armor is a shield falls apart. True emotional strength is not about building walls. It is about integration. You do not harden. You soften into your center. You stop reacting. You start responding. Life no longer pulls you from the outside because something unshakable has taken root within. The noise of the world fades, not because it disappears, but because it loses power over your peace. Carl Jung understood that the deepest suffering comes from living a life that betrays your essence. Many people feel exhausted not because they are weak, but because they are disconnected. They live in constant performance, smiling on the outside, bleeding silently within. That's the tragedy of our time, mistaking connection for meaning, applause for self-worth. But when you walk the path of individuation, you begin to dismantle the lies. You stop asking, "Who do they want me to be?" and start asking, "Who am I when no one's watching?" A woman once described reaching success by society's standards of wealth, recognition, stability, yet feeling hollow at the height of her accomplishments. Her soul had gone quiet, so she walked away, not to escape, but to rediscover. She sat with her wounds. She listened to the inner child she had silenced. She faced the shadow she had spent years avoiding. And in doing so, she didn't become someone new. She remembered someone ancient within herself. That is spiritual wisdom. That is healing. The more you walk this path, the less you explain yourself. You don't need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't perform strength. You radiate peace. You don't suppress your wounds. You integrate them. You don't fear rejection because you are no longer seeking belonging outside yourself. When you are whole, even your silence speaks louder than someone else's performance. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That choice is yours, every single day. Not to be untouchable in the way the world defines it, but to be whole in the way the soul craves. The more you embody your inner truth, the more untouchable you become, not because nothing hurts, but because nothing breaks you. You are no longer held hostage by the fear of loss, rejection, or judgment, because you've reclaimed the very parts of you that were once used to control you. Few will walk this path, but those who do will discover a freedom that can't be taken, a peace that doesn't need permission, and a strength that isn't reactive, it simply is. That is the quiet power of becoming whole. That is the spiritual wisdom Carl Jung devoted his life to sharing. 9. Consciousness is the final shield. External suffering is endless when you remain unconscious of your inner wounds. You can change your job, your partner, your city, but if the same emotions follow you everywhere, the pain will return in new forms. What truly hurts isn't the event itself, but the story you tell yourself about it, the way old trauma colors present experience. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists," and it's true. The emotions you suppress don't disappear. They wait. They hide behind your smiles, behind your ambition, behind your silence, until one day something small breaks you and you don't even know why. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice, a quiet revolution within. Each day, you are faced with moments that invite you to choose awareness over reaction, presence over avoidance. Most people run from their pain by blaming others. But healing begins the moment you stop pointing outward and begin to ask, why did this hurt me so deeply? That question doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. When you stop pretending and start listening, you no longer need to defend yourself against life. You become someone who can feel without drowning. Immunity is not the absence of pain. It's the clarity to see pain for what it is. A signal, not a threat. You don't have to become hard to protect yourself. In fact, the harder you become, the more fragile you feel. Real strength is soft. It's rooted. It says, I can feel this and still stay present. That is what makes you untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because your feelings no longer control you. When you integrate what you once denied, grief, fear, anger, you stop living in reaction. You start living in truth. Spiritual awakening is this exact moment of honesty, when you choose to face what's inside, not escape it. And in doing so, you finally understand nothing, and nobody ever really hurt you. They only revealed what was already wounded. This isn't to blame. It's liberation. You're not a victim of the world. You're the one holding the key. So if there is something in you that is ready to feel without fear, to transform without pretending, comment, I choose awareness. That decision, made over and over, is the path out of suffering. Not perfection, not numbness, but awareness. And from that awareness, a new life begins, where you are no longer dependent on the world, but guided by the truth from within. And remember this, the moment you stop allowing the past to define you, nothing and nobody will ever have the power to hurt you again. True strength is not about building walls. It's about knowing your worth, healing your wounds, and walking forward with quiet confidence. You are not broken. You are becoming. If this message has touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content that helps you grow from within. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next journey into healing, truth, and transformation. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and stay wise. Stay away from people who ask for these 5 things. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we dive deep into the truths that awaken and empower. Today's message is a powerful reminder. Your peace, energy, and time are sacred. There are certain requests people make that, if accepted, can slowly drain your spirit and pull you off your path. In this video, we'll uncover 5 things no one should ever ask of you, and why setting boundaries around them is not selfish, but essential for your growth and happiness. Have you ever felt like someone crossed a line with their demands? Or that you were giving too much, too often, and receiving too little in return? Drop a comment below and let us know how you've learned to protect your peace. And if this message speaks to your soul, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join others on this journey of conscious living. You've come too far to be weighed down by others. You've come too far, endured too much, and grown through pain, silence, and awakening to let yourself be pulled backward by someone else's unresolved chaos. At this stage in your life, emotional survival is no longer enough. It's about spiritual preservation. Carl Jung believed that the process of individuation demands separation from what no longer serves the self. That means stepping away from people who confuse your kindness with obligation and expect you to carry emotional loads that were never yours to bear. You are not anyone's emergency contact for their emotional recklessness. You're not a lifeline for people who refuse to swim. There are those who will reach for you every time they're drowning, but never once learn how to float. They don't want healing, they want escape. They don't want to change, they want comfort. And that comfort often comes at the cost of your peace, your focus, and your forward movement. When you constantly rescue others from themselves, you end up abandoning your own journey. It's not selfish to step away. It's self-honoring. Some won't ask directly for your energy. They'll guilt you into giving it. They'll remind you of what they've done for you, of the loyalty you owe them, or how you're being cold for needing space. But guilt is a silent thief. It's emotional manipulation in disguise. Jung warned us of projections of how others cast their unhealed parts onto us and then expect us to fix what was never ours to begin with. The moment love begins to feel like a trap, a contract, or an unpaid debt, it's no longer love. It's control. And control is the opposite of connection. There will also be people who don't value your presence, just your availability. They want your time, but not your truth. They don't want your soul, only your usefulness. They show up when it's convenient for them and disappear when you need something real. And the more predictable your yes becomes, the more they take it for granted. Your time is sacred. Every hour you give away to people who drain you is an hour stolen from your purpose. Choose silence over shallow conversations. Choose stillness over performance. You owe no one an explanation for valuing your own energy. Perhaps the most dangerous expectation is the one that asks you to dim your light, to make yourself smaller so others don't feel insecure, to water down your joy so someone else can feel comfortable in their own shadow. But your happiness is not a betrayal. Your peace is not arrogance. You are not responsible for someone else's discomfort in the presence of your growth. The right people won't ask you to choose between love and self-respect. They won't demand that you stay the same so they don't have to grow. They will evolve with you, not resent you for changing. Spiritual wisdom means learning when to walk away, not out of bitterness, but from a deep understanding that your energy is your responsibility. You weren't born to carry the weight of everyone else's unhealed wounds. You were born to become whole, and that wholeness requires boundaries, clarity, and courage. Comment below, I release what's not mine to carry. If you're ready to protect your peace and honor how far you've come. Let this be your declaration. Your energy is sacred, and your journey deserves lightness, not burdens. 2. Don't take responsibility for what isn't yours. Saying yes to problems that aren't yours may look noble on the surface, but over time, it quietly turns you into someone else's emotional caretaker, unpaid, unseen, and exhausted. What starts as a small favor, a supportive gesture, quickly morphs into a one-sided responsibility. You begin carrying emotional weight that isn't meant for you, and while they feel lighter, you feel increasingly burdened. That's not love. It's self-abandonment. In many relationships, especially those built on emotional dependency, people learn how to guilt others into carrying their pain. They don't ask directly, but the way they sigh, the way they say, "You're the only one I can talk to," makes you feel responsible for their healing. But you're not. You were never supposed to be the solution to someone else's avoidance of growth. Carrying burdens that don't belong to you leads to burnout, resentment, and a slow disconnection from your own needs. Think about how many times you've stayed on the phone too long, skipped your own rest, or absorbed someone else's crisis just to keep the peace. That isn't compassion, it's a pattern. And that pattern trains others to expect your availability, not appreciate it. Carl Jung understood this deeply when he said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And if what you do is overextend for others, neglecting your own path, you begin to live for others instead of living as yourself. Modern life romanticizes selflessness. You'll hear phrases like "ride or die," or "real friends show up no matter what." But at what cost? If showing up for others means constantly walking out on yourself, the relationship is unbalanced. An unbalanced love is not love, it's emotional servitude. You end up in silent suffering, tired not because you're weak, but because your energy has been misdirected for too long. This emotional misalignment often goes unnoticed until your body begins to feel it. Fatigue, tension, frustration, or an overwhelming sense of being off. These aren't random signs. They are signals that your energy is being spent where it doesn't belong. The remedy isn't to give more, it's to pull back. When you refuse to carry what isn't yours, you're not being cold or unkind. You're practicing energetic integrity. You are reclaiming space for your own growth. Saying no doesn't make you hard. It makes you clear. It tells the universe you are ready to stop being a dumping ground for other people's emotional clutter. It tells your inner self that you are worth preserving. And when you start protecting your energy like it's sacred, which it is, everything changes. The people who stayed only because you carried their load will fade. And those who honor your boundaries will remain. That's how you know you're healing. Are you ready to stop carrying what was never yours to hold? If so, comment below. I release what's not mine to affirm your choice to protect your peace and reclaim your energy. 3. Lending money can be a dangerous trap. Lending money out of guilt is one of the easiest traps to fall into and one of the hardest to escape. It starts small, a favor here, a little help there. But soon, it becomes a cycle. Not because the need grows, but because the expectation does. What you thought was compassion slowly turns into a silent contract you never signed. The worst part is, it's often family or close friends who create this emotional bind. They know your soft spots, and they know how to press them. Suddenly, saying no isn't just about money. It's about your identity as a good person, a loyal daughter, a responsible sibling. The guilt creeps in, wrapping around you like a chain disguised as love. But true kindness does not come from sacrifice that leaves you empty. It does not ask you to abandon your peace, to rescue someone from the consequences of their own choices. When people repeatedly ask for money, especially without any intention of change or accountability, it's rarely about the money. It's about access to your emotional energy, your time, and your sense of obligation. And often, it's powered by manipulation. The silent threat of disappointment, the dramatic stories, the subtle reminders of all they've done for you in the past. These are not requests. They're unspoken demands. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And that includes offloading responsibility onto those who are too compassionate to say no. When you lend out of guilt, you're not just giving money, you're enabling avoidance. You're allowing others to delay their growth while you carry their weight. And that weight adds up, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It starts affecting your sleep, your focus, your sense of safety. You begin to feel resentful, but still trapped, still silent. And then comes the emotional backlash. When you finally say no, the mask drops. You're labeled selfish, cold, or ungrateful. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you broke the cycle. You removed the convenience. And people who depended on your guilt don't respond well to boundaries. They lash out, not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer useful in the way they want. But your energy is not a currency to be spent on emotional debts. Your life is not a rescue mission for those unwilling to grow. True love respects limits. True connection honors mutual effort. If someone loves you only when you say yes, then their love is a performance, not a truth. Protect your peace. Say no without explanation. And remember, helping someone does not mean saving them. You can offer support without surrendering your stability. You can care deeply and still walk away. Because your energy is sacred. Your stability is not a gift to be traded for validation or approval. And your peace is worth more than anyone's temporary comfort. If this message spoke to your spirit, repeat after me. I protect my peace and value my boundaries. I no longer feel guilty for saying no. Let this be your declaration of freedom from guilt, pressure, and emotional manipulation. Four, don't involve yourself in family conflicts. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to be dragged into someone else's war, especially when that war is rooted in family conflict, inheritance disputes, unresolved childhood resentment, or toxic loyalty loops passed down through generations. You are not here to be a peace treaty for people who are committed to misunderstanding each other. You are not the healer of wounds you didn't create. Carl Jung once said that the unlived lives of our parents often become the silent burdens of their children. And in many families, that burden shows up as emotional blackmail masked as duty. You are asked to fix what others broke, to carry the weight of dysfunction just because you were born into it. But just because something is family doesn't mean it's yours to repair. When someone expects you to take sides in a dispute that never involved you, what they're really asking is for you to sacrifice your clarity for their chaos. They may disguise it as a plea for help. Just talk to them for me. Or, you're the only one they'll listen to. But underneath, it's often a trap. A setup that puts you at the center of blame the moment things fall apart. These emotional entanglements rarely come with peace offerings. They come with silent expectations, twisted loyalties, and the slow erosion of your boundaries. The truth is, most people don't want resolution. They want validation for their pain. And if you offer your presence, they'll drain your spirit to feed their narrative. You must understand, protecting your peace is not betrayal. It's survival. Emotional neutrality doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. Because love that demands your silence and dysfunction is not love, it's control. You can wish someone well and still walk away. You can hope for healing and still refuse to be the glue holding broken pieces together. Your energy is sacred, and when you let guilt override your intuition, you surrender that energy to battles that don't deserve it. Choosing distance from family conflict isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Not everyone has earned the right to access your emotional space. You don't need to apologize for refusing to be the messenger, the mediator, or the martyr. In fact, refusing to play those roles might be the most powerful message you can send. Because some people only start healing when they lose the one who always tried to fix things. You owe no one your inner peace. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you selfish. Let them talk. Silence, in this case, is protection. You are not here to be devoured by inherited pain or to be a cushion for unresolved tension. You are here to grow, to breathe, to live free from the constant noise of other people's projections. So, if anyone ever tries to drag you into their emotional battlefield, ask yourself, is this mine to carry? And if it's not, put it down. Walk away, not in anger, but in wisdom. Because your peace is not a gift you hand over to people who haven't even earned your presence. It's a boundary, and you have every right to protect it. If you're ready to protect your peace and stop carrying what was never yours to fix, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's stand together in wisdom and emotional freedom. 5. Don't let anyone ask you to change who you are. People may ask you to change your identity, your daily rituals, your tone, even your core values, just to make them more comfortable. This isn't love. It's emotional manipulation. And when it comes from your own children, the pain hits differently. Because somewhere deep down, many parents believe they owe their children their silence, their compliance, and their constant emotional sacrifice. But that belief is not only false, it's dangerous. You are not meant to vanish into roles others assign to you. You are here to live your truth, fully and unapologetically. When someone pressures you to tone it down, what they're really saying is, I prefer you small. I prefer you edited. That is emotional invalidation. It's the subtle kind of rejection that doesn't shout, but it erodes. It whispers that your way of living, your beliefs, your presence is somehow wrong or too much. And over time, if you absorb those messages, you begin to erase yourself. You start second-guessing the things that once brought you joy. You begin apologizing for simply being. And that is not the life you fought so hard to build. There's a woman named Maria who lived this. She used to wear colorful scarves, play folk music in the mornings, and lead meditation at the community center. But after her daughter told her she was embarrassing and needed to act her age, Maria stopped. She muted her colors, silenced her joy, and thought she was being a good mother by disappearing a little. Years passed. Her energy dimmed. Her spirit wilted. Until one day, she looked in the mirror and asked, "Who have I become?" That moment became her turning point. She chose herself again. She remembered that her uniqueness wasn't a flaw. It was her gift. The people who ask you to change who you are often have not accepted who they are. Their discomfort is a mirror reflecting their own inner conflicts. Don't carry that for them. Don't bleed yourself dry trying to win their love. You are not here to please. You are here to be. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that privilege is sacred. So protect your sacred self. Refuse to apologize for your evolution. Refuse to accommodate those who only loved the version of you that stayed silent, agreeable, and invisible. You do not need to shrink to keep peace. You do not need to dull your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. Let them adjust their eyes or let them walk away. But you stay whole. If this message resonates with your soul, comment below. I honor who I am, unapologetically. Let the world know you're no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. Your truth deserves to be seen and celebrated. 6. Don't be forced to prioritize others' feelings over your own. There is a subtle kind of emotional manipulation that often hides in plain sight. It wears the mask of care, of concern, of closeness. But underneath it all, it's a quiet demand. Make me more comfortable, even if it costs you your joy. You may have heard it in soft-spoken guilt, in a sigh when you said no, or in the disappointed silence that follows when you choose yourself. And each time, without realizing it, you hand over a small piece of your power because someone else's comfort is allowed to matter more than your truth. When others constantly expect you to shrink yourself to keep peace, what they are really asking is for you to sacrifice your authenticity for their convenience. That's not care. That's control. It's not compromise. It's emotional blackmail disguised as love. And the more you give into it, the more you lose access to your real self. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming that person often requires confronting the people who benefit from you staying small. These are the ones who praise your selflessness until it means saying no to them. The ones who admire your strength until your strength begins to create boundaries. They want the version of you that's always available, always agreeable, always soft, even when it hurts you. When someone asks you to put their emotional needs before your own truth, they are not asking for connection. They're asking for control of the narrative. They want to shape your decisions so they can feel better about their own lives. And when you resist, they call you selfish, distant, or cold. But the truth is, choosing yourself is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of healing. It is the reclaiming of your sacred right to exist as a full human being, flawed, complex, and free. You were not born to be someone else's emotional caretaker. You are not here to manage other people's reactions to your growth. And you are certainly not responsible for calming their insecurities every time you evolve. The more you shape yourself to please others, the more you disappear from your own story. That is a quiet death of the soul when your life becomes a stage for someone else's drama. Some people will try to make you feel guilty for choosing peace. They'll say, "You've changed," as if it's a crime. But that accusation is often a sign you're moving in the right direction. Because the people who truly love you don't ask you to abandon yourself to prove your love. They don't ask you to sacrifice your well-being so they can avoid discomfort. They celebrate your evolution, even when it challenges them. They want you to live fully, not just to exist in a role that makes them feel safe. Stay away from people who ask for these things. Your silence when your soul wants to speak. Your guilt when you've done nothing wrong. Your energy when they offer nothing in return. Your presence when it costs you your peace. And your joy when it makes them feel insecure. These are not small requests. These are violations of your emotional sovereignty. And the more you say yes to them, the more you'll find yourself living a life that doesn't feel like your own. You are not selfish for wanting space. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. And you are not wrong for choosing yourself over someone else's comfort. In fact, that may be the bravest thing you ever do. Because in a world that constantly demands your obedience, your true freedom lies in your refusal to betray yourself. If this message resonates with your soul, say it with me. I honor my truth. I will no longer shrink for the comfort of others. 7. Protect your peace above all. Peace is not just a feeling. It's your soul's natural state. When you protect it, you protect the most sacred part of your being. Yet in today's world, your peace will constantly be tested by those who want access to your energy without earning your trust, by those who see your empathy as a weakness to exploit, and by those who confuse control with connection. Your peace is priceless, and once you realize its value, you'll stop negotiating it with people who never had to earn it. There will be moments when saying no feels uncomfortable. You might worry about being seen as selfish, cold, or distant. But saying no is not rejection, it's redirection. It is the highest form of self-respect. Every time you say no to chaos, to guilt, to manipulation, you are saying yes to your healing, your growth, and your clarity. It's not your job to manage how others interpret your boundaries. Your responsibility is to uphold them without apology. Some people will never understand your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. They will call your silence arrogance and label your distance betrayal. But the truth is, when someone does not respect your boundaries, they do not truly respect you. If they only love you when you're available, agreeable, and self-sacrificing, then what they love is your compliance, not your core. Real love recognizes the need for space. Real respect honors a no without punishment or pouting. Protecting your peace sometimes looks like walking away mid-conversation. Sometimes it means turning your phone off and choosing not to explain. It may mean turning down an invitation that comes with strings attached or no longer engaging in family drama just because it's expected of you. It means saying, I choose me, not in bitterness, but in clarity. Carl Jung said, who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. When you look inside and see the exhaustion, the overwhelm, the misalignment, you don't owe anyone an explanation for realigning your life. People may say, you've changed. That's okay. Growth always looks like distance to those who stayed the same. Peace requires letting go of false obligations. You were not born to be someone's savior, therapist, or emotional crutch. The more you heal, the more you'll realize that energy is currency, and not everyone deserves to spend yours. The next time someone asks for your time, your energy, your forgiveness, your silence, or your presence, pause and ask yourself, does this serve my peace? Does this request honor my worth? Does this invitation feel like alignment or a detour into old wounds? If the answer feels heavy, confusing, or forced, the answer is already no. You don't need to defend your peace. You just need to own it. True peace doesn't beg to be preserved. It demands to be protected. Let your boundaries be the guards at the gate. Let your silence speak louder than forced explanations. And let your life reflect this one deep truth. Peace is not found in pleasing others. It is found in staying loyal to your soul. To affirm your commitment to inner peace and self-respect, comment below, I protect my peace. Let it be your declaration that you choose calm over chaos and boundaries over burnout. Your energy is sacred. Guard it like your life depends on it. because it does. And remember, your energy is sacred. Don't let it be drained by those who seek to control, guilt, or manipulate you under the disguise of love or loyalty. As Carl Jung reminded us, true transformation begins with awareness, and sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is simply walking away. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs this wisdom, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights that empower your journey. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that help you awaken, align, and rise. Stay wise, stay protected, stay true to yourself.